You think Nazi hunters were heroic government agents tracking down war criminals? But the reality was, far more disturbing. Most were ordinary people driven to madness by what they'd witnessed, operating completely outside the law in a world that wanted to forget. It's a comforting story, a narrative we tell ourselves to restore order. Good versus evil, a clear dichotomy that simplifies the complexities of war. Justice delivered by government agents, a system designed to uphold the law. But what if beneath the surface of this comforting narrative, that image is a myth, a carefully constructed illusion that obscures a more unsettling truth? The real Nazi hunters, the individuals who relentlessly pursued justice, were rarely official heroes, celebrated and recognized by the world. They were survivors, bearing the weight of unimaginable horrors, haunted by loss, the echoes of their past reverberating through their present. Driven by pain, a burning desire to avenge the atrocities they had witnessed. Not agents of justice, bound by legal constraints and bureaucratic procedures, but agents of vengeance, fueled by a raw and visceral need for retribution. Operating outside the law, beyond the reach of conventional morality, because the law had failed them, proving inadequate in the face of such profound evil. Their mission was not driven by a desire for a courtroom, for the sterile environment of legal proceedings, but for a reckoning, a personal confrontation with the perpetrators of their suffering. The world wasn't united, the political landscape fractured by ideological divides in hunting Nazis. The pursuit of justice was often a lonely and isolated endeavor. For most governments, preoccupied with their own political agendas, it was an inconvenience, a distraction from more pressing concerns. Overshadowed by the Cold War, the looming threat of nuclear annihilation. These hunters acted alone, driven by their own moral compass. Often facing indifference, met with apathy and a desire to forget the past. Or hostility, accused of vigilantism and disrupting the fragile peace. From the very nations, the governments and institutions that had fought Hitler, now hesitant to confront the lingering shadows of the war. So who were they? What drove these individuals to embark on such a perilous quest? Ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, transformed by trauma, their lives irrevocably altered by the horrors they had endured. They'd lost everything, stripped bare by the forces of hatred and destruction. Families torn apart and scattered by the winds of war. Homes reduced to rubble, monuments to their shattered past. Faith in humanity eroded by the depths of human depravity. Their quest was born, not from a sense of duty or obligation, from wounds, but from a deep and unyielding desire for closure that would not heal, festering beneath the surface of their lives. They were vigilantes, operating outside the bounds of established authority, using brutal methods, mirroring the violence they had witnessed, on the fringes of society, existing in the shadows, unseen and unheard. This isn't a story, a simple tale of heroism and triumph, of heroes, but a complex exploration of human nature. It's a story of obsession, a consuming need to confront the past, of broken people, struggling to piece together their shattered lives, trying to mend, to repair the irreparable damage inflicted by war. A broken world grappling with the aftermath of unimaginable atrocities, and often breaking themselves, sacrificing their own well-being in the pursuit of justice. In the process, paying a heavy price for their unwavering commitment. The myth comforts us, offering a simplified version of events. But the truth, the reality of these events, is far more complicated, a tangled web of motivations and consequences. To understand the Nazi hunter, you must understand the world that made them. Imagine the ruins of Warsaw, the silence of a liberated camp. This was their reality. For them, the war wasn't history. It was a personal apocalypse. They were the last witnesses, carrying the ghosts of their loved ones, not soldiers or spies, but ordinary people, poets, shopkeepers, students, whose lives were shattered. Their training was survival, not espionage. Trauma rewired them, stripping away normalcy and leaving only the instinct for retribution. They couldn't return to normal life. Normal no longer existed. Many suffered from what we now call PTSD, plagued by nightmares and paranoia. This constant alertness made them effective hunters, but also isolated them. Their past was a living entity, fueling their mission. They saw the world as a graveyard, a crime scene where murderers walked free. They hunted not for the state, but for the dead, seeking justice in a world that had forgotten what justice meant. After 1945, the guns fell silent, and the world breathed a collective sigh of relief. The war was over, or so it seemed. While the world celebrated victory with jubilant parades and overflowing joy, a darker reality was quietly taking shape beneath the surface. Many Nazis simply vanished, melting away into the shadows like ghosts fleeing the dawn. Often in plain sight, blending into the anonymity of bustling city streets and post-war reconstruction. Some ran businesses in Munich, rebuilding their lives and fortunes under the guise of ordinary citizens. Others practiced medicine in Cairo, offering healing hands while concealing their past affiliations. Still others retired in Buenos Aires, seeking refuge in the vibrant, sprawling metropolis of South America, sometimes under their real names, confident that their past crimes would remain buried and forgotten. They knew the world didn't care, or perhaps more accurately, the world was choosing not to see. Or worse, had new uses for them, recognizing their skills and knowledge could be repurposed for new agendas. The Cold War made yesterday's enemies into today's assets as the global struggle against communism took precedence over past atrocities. Allied agencies recruited former Nazis for their anti-communist expertise, turning a blind eye to their horrific past in the name of strategic advantage. Many were given new identities, erased from the historical record and reborn under fabricated names, and jobs by the very nations that defeated them, a bitter irony that underscored the complex moral compromises of the post-war era. In South America, networks of sympathizers and corrupt officials, often operating with impunity, created safe havens, offering sanctuary to those seeking to escape justice. Rat lines, often aided by the Vatican, smuggled thousands of war criminals, spiriting them away from the reach of Allied authorities. Out of Europe, across oceans, and into new lives built on lies and deception. For Nazi hunters, this meant their targets were protected, shielded by layers of secrecy and powerful allies. By powerful global networks, making the pursuit of justice an uphill battle against formidable odds. They weren't just chasing fugitives, they were fighting the apathy, the willful ignorance, and the convenient amnesia of a world eager to move on. And hypocrisy of the post-war world, where old enemies became new friends in the name of political expediency. Their governments shook hands with fascists, forging alliances with those who had only recently been their sworn adversaries, deepening the hunters' sense of betrayal and isolation, as they realized the very institutions they trusted were complicit in protecting the guilty. In this world of shadows, the lines between friend and enemy blurred, and the moral clarity of war was lost, swallowed by the fog of political expediency and moral ambiguity. Hunting a Nazi fugitive. It wasn't a straightforward task. It was a shadowy pursuit that demanded unwavering dedication. It was nothing like a police investigation, with its clear procedures and legal framework. There were no warrants, no official authorization to act, no official records. The past had been deliberately erased, leaving a void where justice should have been. Just rumors, whispers, often distorted by time and trauma, and scraps of information, pieced together from the remnants of shattered lives. Hunters built their own files, meticulously constructing a case from the ground up, piecing together leads, each one a fragile thread in a complex web. From survivor testimonies, harrowing accounts of unimaginable horrors, and old photographs, silent witnesses to a dark history. It was a slow, agonizing search, a race against time as memories faded and perpetrators aged, for a needle in a global haystack scattered across continents and hidden within new identities. Once a lead emerged, offering a glimmer of hope in the darkness, the hunter traveled, relentlessly pursuing the truth. on their own dime, often sacrificing personal comfort and security. Living in cheap hotels, existing on meager resources, always on the move, one step ahead of the shadows. They posed as journalists or tourists, blending into the background to gather information, risking exposure, knowing that their actions could have dire consequences. At every turn, constantly aware of the potential for danger. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford in a world where deception was the norm. They learned to read people, to discern truth from falsehood, spot lies, hidden beneath layers of carefully constructed facades, and sense danger, anticipating threats before they materialized. Surveillance, bribery, breaking and entering, these were their tools, the means to an end in a world operating outside the law. It was a clandestine war fought with deception, where appearances could be deceiving, and desperation, driven by the need to bring justice to the victims. The hunter had to be as cunning and ruthless as their prey, mirroring the darkness they sought to extinguish. Simon Wiesenthal, the most famous hunter, a symbol of unwavering resolve, was an architect, a man of precision and vision. Not a government agent, but a private citizen driven by a profound sense of justice. From a small Vienna office, a humble space filled with the weight of history, he built archives, a testament to the power of memory and documentation. That led to the capture, the apprehension of those who thought they could escape their past, of over 1,000 Nazis, bringing them to face the consequences of their actions. His work was relentless, a constant pursuit that spanned decades, thankless, often met with indifference or even hostility, and fueled by a promise, a solemn vow to never forget, to the ghosts of his past, a commitment to honor the memory of those who perished. Over time, the hunt changed the hunters. The line between justice and vengeance blurred. Some formed vigilante squads operating entirely outside the law. When they found their targets, there was no trial, only retribution. They became judges, juries, and executioners, using threats, blackmail, and violence. Each act, done for a greater good, chipped away at their own humanity. The hunt became an obsession, isolating them from the world. Official justice was closed to them, so they carved their own. The personal cost was devastating. Families broken, friendships lost, and the hunters themselves consumed by their quest. They paid for justice with their own souls. Among the shadows, one name haunted the hunters: Odessa. To the public, it was a spy novel fantasy. To the hunters, it was terrifyingly real. Odessa wasn't a formal group, but a decentralized network, a brotherhood of murderers protecting their own. It provided forgers, bankers, and escape routes, rat lines leading to South America and the Middle East. For hunters, Odessa was a phantom, no headquarters, no leader, just a web of loyalties and secrets. Infiltrating it was nearly impossible and deadly. The network had eyes everywhere, from German police to Argentine ports. Odessa proved Nazi escapes weren't random. They were coordinated, well-funded operations. Former SS members still wielded power years after the Reich's fall. For a lone hunter, fighting Odessa was like waging war against a hidden empire. One hunter, Jakob, uncovered a truth darker than Odessa itself. Jakob, a former Polish resistance fighter, tracked an SS officer named Franz Ritter across Europe. In Austria, Jakob discovered Ritter wasn't hiding. He was protected by Western intelligence. Jakob's investigation revealed a covert Allied Operation Stay Behind, a secret anti-communist army led by former SS officers. Hundreds of war criminals were being recruited, trained, and armed by the Allies. Their crimes were erased. They were given new identities and influence. Odessa was being co-opted and funded by Western governments as an anti-Soviet asset. The very people meant to face justice were now secret allies. Jakob compiled evidence, names, dates, memos, hoping to expose the truth. He believed the world would listen if he could just get the story out. He had no idea how dangerous that hope was. The betrayal he uncovered was systematic, not accidental. A collaboration between democracy's champions and the architects of the Holocaust. With his dossier complete, Jakob turned to the American press, hoping for justice. In 1968, he met a journalist in Zurich sharing years of dangerous work. The journalist promised to expose the conspiracy, but was secretly a CIA asset. Jakob's information went straight to intelligence agencies. His fate was sealed. Soon, he was followed by professionals. His contacts vanished. A wall of silence closed in. One night, Jakob disappeared. No struggle. No evidence, just gone. His name was erased, his work confiscated, his investigation purged. The story of Stay Behind and Nazi recruits remained buried. Jakob became a cautionary tale among hunters, a reminder of the true power they faced. They weren't just fighting fugitives or networks, they were up against the state itself. The message was clear. Some truths are too dangerous, and those who reveal them pay the ultimate price. For decades, Jakob's story was lost, dismissed as conspiracy. The official narrative held the Allies pursued justice and the Cold War required hard choices. But truth has a way of surviving. In 2019, a declassified archive revealed a report, Jakob's dossier summarized by the very journalist who betrayed him. The documents confirmed everything SS officers recruited operations run and Jakob's silencing. After 50 years, his evidence surfaced, a final echo from the grave. The revelation caused ripples among historians. But the world had moved on. Jakob's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. History is written by the victors, and the lines between good and evil are often blurred. Most hunters failed, broken, silenced, or consumed by their quest. But Jakob's story reminds us no secret is safe forever. How many other truths and how many other Jakobs still lie buried waiting for the light?